support their right to believe in their religion. I mean, like, in other words, if these people had gone to a Muslim wedding designer, his religion might dictate the very same thing that this Christian woman's did.
Which
Like, are
isn't
we
that
going to
also
basically?
protected?
What's
Yeah,
that?
it could be.
Isn't religion also a protected class?
Yeah.
So this is my, like, it all goes back to the bathroom. It all goes back to the bathroom.
Oh, is this the
If-
trans thing
If
again?
yes, if you were a woman and a trans, woman comes into the bathroom, at what point do you say, at what point
This
does
is
one
enough.
person's rights end so the other ones can begin?
Hello, welcome back to the Friends of Zeus podcast. This is episode 125. Tonight's Mike's show. He wanted to talk about several issues, but most importantly, I think he wanted to just touch on how we're feeling about America right now. That being said, I'm going to hand the mic over to Mike and see what he has to say.
Cricket.
Sure.
Mike,
Sure.
Mike, tune in. We need you.
Come back.
Squeak, 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 squeak.
All right, now just for the record, so our audience doesn't panic in any way, Mike is still part of the show. He didn't start his own podcast, and he didn't just up and quit for no reason. He
took a nap.
I was just gonna say he got caught up with something, but yeah, the story that we heard is that that he took a nap and he can't wake up.
This is
But-
riveting.
Yeah,
but
but
he's
not.
still alive.
Yeah, it's
And-
not
and
it's not a
tonight-
coma. It's not a coma because we all got a text from him that says I took a nap and I feel tired and
Mine
I'm not
said-
going to do the show.
Mine said,
he's
"Screw
not
you
getting out the
guys.
bed.
I'm going to bed."
I am going to stand in for Mike tonight. And
Oh,
just
boy.
give you a preview. The party, the party, the party, the party. Constitution, Constitution, the party, Constitution. All right.
Stay off your lawn.
Yeah.
Stay up my lawn with your
Okay.
long
Stay up
hair
his
and your
lawn.
rock and roll music. Party, 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 party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to get back to like what Zeus had said, Mike was interested in discussing sort of the state of things in America right now as far as Americans and how they feel about their country, because we just celebrated Independence Day, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the principles, etc. And does that mean much to everybody like it did when we were growing up? You know, does it still mean the same thing these days, 2023? And then Mike also wanted to talk about the 3 recent Supreme Court decisions, which we can get
Run
into.
by the party.
And anyway, that's what he wanted to talk about, so we're going to talk about it. And that's
This is
about
going to be
it.
the wingingest episode we've ever winged.
Yeah, we're going to wing it.
I think we'll pull it off. I think we will pull it off. I guess, well, you and Tom there were sort of going over some of the issues.
Well, wait a second. How was your guys' 4th of July?
Oh my God, it was fantastic. I took the boys out to Manassas. I actually,
He said
because the
asses.
4th of July.
Man, no, he
Actually,
said
My
man.
asses.
It's man asses.
there's a town next to Manassas called Dumfries, and they're talking about combining the 2 towns, and they're going to call them Dumbasses.
Wow.
It's a Virginia joke. You have to live here to love it. No, so I went to Berkeley. Tom probably knows where that is.
Yep.
And they said they were having 4th of July festivities. And we went there and got there. And I'm like telling, Ollie, he's 13. He doesn't get subtle hints. Oh, FoZ mug. And he doesn't get subtle hints. I'm like, you know what? We should really be hitting more traffic at this point. And he's like, well, maybe they're just there. I'm like, no, it's just not how it works. You'll see. So we ended up going to Manassas, which is like 30 minutes further out. and we just like sat in this parking lot because I got there and I was like, okay, town is like a mile away and I'm not moving. So I was like, okay, everybody's sitting in this parking lot watching. And it was pretty cool. Like Manassas is a pretty big city in Virginia. And we were probably like 4 or 5 miles away, and we had fireworks to the right of us, fireworks to the left. We had the Manassas ones right in front of us. It was pretty neat to like just watch everything. If you weren't seeing something in front of you, you could look to the right and see a smaller one. So yeah, mine was great, and the boys loved it. Max, you guys know Max, he's excited about everything. So he really loved it. He was like, oh, that one's like magic. I'm like, sure it is. Yeah, it's like magic. But yeah, they had a good time. Got them home at like 10:30. They went to sleep at like midnight, which really was a hassle this morning. But yeah, I had a good one. I don't know. What about you guys?
It's pretty good. So you guys are the family that watches. We're the family that does. So we
Yeah.
do with the fireworks. We don't watch the fireworks.
Mhm.
Which, hey, to each their own. Doing fireworks is sometimes you can't even really enjoy them most of the time because you're blowing them off. Anyway, so most years past, we usually get like the artillery shells and do like that whole setup, and then we've gotten really good at it, like just within the family of just 2 people at a time run up, you light like three artillery shells, drop them and run, and then so you'll have like, anyway, we get better each year. But this year my uncle bought this like those big ass like $300 like firework cakes at the firework stands.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Are you talking about like mortars?
No, like they're called cakes, but they're like a bunch of different kind of fireworks in one big ass box,
Right.
and you just light the fuse and it just goes in it for however long.
Yeah, we have.
Those are like, we got this one. It's called the ground rattler. If you ever see this firework anywhere, buy it because it was badass. Like, if I wish I could, like, that made me so excited about just the whole thing, and it was the last one we did, but I was like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. I haven't seen a cool firework like that like in a really long time. So
Cool.
That sounds like a really complex setup, because like, how does it not accidentally light off the other shit that's in? I'm assuming it's like everything in one, probably runs for like 15 minutes and just keeps going. That sounds like
they're like maybe a minute. They're not 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But they're basically,
Well,
each
it
thing
sound like-
is in its own little tube in the box. Like, so it, whatever it does. Science.
Okay, yeah.
Gunpowder
Yeah,
science.
it's a fuse. It's a fuse. That's
like a
all.
chain reaction
Yeah.
from one to the next.
It sounds like a mortar, kind of, but yeah, dude, I used to go. We're gonna talk about fireworks shows for the rest of the show. I used to go
Which
down to
is
Florida. Yeah. I would go down to Florida from Virginia and hit south of the border and buy just like a shit ton of mortars, like, which are illegal everywhere but south of the border. So like, I remember one year.
No, they're legal here. They're legal in Kansas. You can do them.
Fair enough. I bought. I'm sorry. I had
That's
nothing.
fine. It's cool.
I bought like a shit ton, like $200 worth, because we were gonna fucking blow it up. And this is so messed up. So I'm unloading them from the car, and these cops come up behind me on bicycles. They were like ninja style.
I had a very similar experience at the lake one time with booze in my hand. Anyway, go ahead.
And they were like, yeah, we're gonna have to confiscate those. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
So I had this like amazing show set up. Like, I had like literally like 40 mortars. And they didn't actually confiscate them. They made us douse them in water.
Oh no.
That's I'm getting
worse.
trauma
It's
vibes.
worse.
Because we at the lake one time we had to pour our beers out, and oh my god, it's terrible.
Oh,
Anyway,
one time.
very similar experience with the cops on the bikes.
I'd rather they took my shit and went and used it somewhere
Right.
else.
Yeah, well, they were on bicycles, right? So they have to call us back up.
They're
Yeah, but then
bottom
you don't
feeder
like you don't
tops.
do anything that's like, you don't hide your shit behind your back. You don't like, stop what you're doing because
No.
they're on bicycles. You think they're just regular people. No, tricked you.
Yeah.
So do you think it was
terrible.
just a coincidence, Zeus, or did somebody report you?
Not the people at the house I was with. They were like jazzed. They were like, let's get this shit on. This is like in my early 30s, late 20s. So I mean, it was a while ago. Things were different back then. But yeah, that one was a real pisser. What about you?
Yeah.
Okay,
My fourth was kind of like a combination of both of yours because we watched the fireworks. We're close to Trump National over here, and they lit them off there. We can see those from our front yard. And then we went on the actual 4th of July. We went over to a friend's house, had barbecue, and then we got. He had a bunch of fireworks. He had a ton. He probably did like you did, Zeus, $200 worth, but I did about $50 worth, and I brought mine. And it took us like an hour to go through all these fireworks out on the front street. The ones I would recommend, Des, if you come across them, there was a good one called Bucket of Balls, which was and these are just like the spark fountain ones.
Tom loves a bucket of balls.
Bucket of Balls was good. And then there was one called 7-Star Luxury, which was a good little show. They each last about, 90 seconds, 2 minutes.
Tom's fireworks sound like pornos.
Yeah, bag of balls.
I tell myself
every
year I tell myself I'm going to do this, but the only fireworks that aren't legal in Kansas, maybe Missouri. No, I think I don't know. Anyway, are bottle rockets and sky. Yeah, you can't do bottle rockets and you can't do sky lanterns, which I'm like, we can do all the other aerial fireworks. Why can't we do bottle rockets? But anyway, can't have bottle rockets.
Sky lanterns.
Probably people get hurt.
Those are like the things you like Chinese lanterns. You light them and then you just let them go, and it's literally like a floating ball of fire. It's floating. Who knows where it's gonna go?
Like the
3
guy in
states
me
over,
says,
maybe.
Sounds great.
Yeah, but they're legal in Oklahoma. So every year I'm like, I don't know why I don't just drive my ass an hour and a half south and get me some bottle rockets, but I don't. So
Because you'll get hurt. That's why they're illegal.
No,
I don't want anything where I'm going to lose a finger.
Well, you guys are bottle rockets legal where you live?
Yeah. I know I've
well, send me some in the mail.
Yeah, I've lit them off, but I don't know if they're still legal or not.
Can I ask you guys a question? Have any of you ever met a person that lost their fingers to fucking fireworks?
Yes, I have.
You had to ruin it, Des.
Well, it was. Sorry,
I got a story worse than that.
You asked the question.
One of my high school teachers, he lost a pinky from fireworks.
Oh man.
Well, he's an idiot.
No, Zeus, when I was living in Florida, there was a guy that for a brief period through like another friend of a friend would hang out in our apartment, like with us sort of as a group. And when he was a little kid, there was a terrible fireworks accident. Like he had like burns all over half of his body. He was missing fingers on that arm, or rather what was left of his hand. And like I said, he was a friend of a friend, and he was having a good time with us, drinking and hanging out in the beach and in the pool. And that, he was all messed up, and it was a childhood, like really bad fireworks accident. So be careful out there. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Don't light them in your hand and throw them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do you still talk to Six Finger Charlie?
No, I haven't even thought about him in like over a decade, and that whole fireworks, mishap just all came flooding back. Thank you.
Is that the same guy you were thinking of, Zeus?
I don't know if Zeus ever met him.
No, I was just.
Oh, did you?
He
have
was just making a joke.
Six Finger Charlie.
The hospital, the hospital I work at, we're like the regional burn center for like tri-state area.
Hmm.
Oh my God.
So man, do you have to work on 4th of July? It's real weird because no one's doing anything because no one's coming in except for the ER. It's like firework injury, burn, firework injury, burn, explosion, whatever. And like the burn center is just like packed. Oh, it's
Wow.
crazy. But if there's like a couple of spots in the hospital that you can like go out and the windows, like you can see for miles, and it's so cool. Like everyone's just shooting off these
Oh, yeah.
fireworks. It's pretty cool. Or if
That's
you go up on the
terrible.
helipad.
Except
That's
under the
terrible.
ER where they're all like this.
No,
Yeah.
no. To look out of the windows or like on the helipad or something, it's pretty cool. Not the people getting burned.
Okay. There's no windows in the ER, Zeus. They can't see anything.
No, I'm talking about
no,
up on the
I'm
high
saying,
floors.
like down at the where you drive into the ER. They're just jumpy.
Yeah, I would be.
I don't know why I'm getting such joy out of people blowing
you
their
ever-
fingers.
Have you ever been down to the National Mall to see the fireworks?
Oh my God.
Oh, years ago.
Twice.
Years
Twice.
ago.
Is it like amazing?
Once.
It's amazing. It's amazing, but it's only amazing if you go into it knowing that it's going to take you till like 3 o'clock to get home, 3 a.m.
Just
Right.
get you one of them scoots and just scoot home. It's worth it. You'll get home quicker.
I don't know. You can't move. There's like a million
Right.
people.
And they block off like a lot of the
and
streets.
I'm not
so-
exaggerating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
are they going to start doing the drone shows down there instead of
What are the
fireworks? Do you
drone
think
shows?
I
they're
don't
like
think
these?
they'll do that over the
You don't
because
think
it's
so?
near the White House.
I mean,
do
I don't
different-
know.
They're already doing that in parts
Yeah,
of
you
the
can't.
country.
You
Mhm.
can't do drones in DC. Not at all.
I don't think so, but
Definitely
in other parts of the country, yeah.
Well, okay, that would make sense. I don't think they're drones like drones. I think they're just like orbs that
just,
float. I
like
don't really
light
know what they
shows.
are.
Yeah.
But no,
They're like
that's a
non-droney
interesting point.
drones.
Fun
Yeah.
fact, did you know that fireworks are protected by the Second Amendment and are I guess oversought by the ATF?
Wow.
That is interesting.
Yeah, you
So
should have done hard time for your little escapade there, Zeus.
Yeah, they might come knocking
Well, I
at your
didn't-
door.
Yeah.
You know,
don't
I
what
didn't
the
even get the
statute of
light
limitations is on that.
I didn't even get the light one. That was the part that bothered me. They caught me mid-show, fine.
Yeah, then
But
they would
I-
have hauled you off.
Then I didn't even get the light one. That's the part that chaps my ass the most.
Yeah, I don't I guess I'm the only one in this group, but since I was like a really little kid, fireworks and parades both just kind of seen them all. Like I just don't I can't get into it. Like ooh ah, like I it's you
Mhm.
know, our fourth was like we got rained out of going to the pool. Like we were planning on going to the pool that just reopened, and that got rained out. And then we were just chilling. Like I've got a great view from my bedroom window of like the Freedom Tower and Jersey City, which is the next big city, and they're the ones who had the fireworks show in this county this year. And so just looking out the window, I got to see all the fireworks I could ever want to see. It was, it
Yeah,
lasted
that sounds pretty cool.
it lasted at least 10 minutes.
It's
But,
interesting.
So that was kind of cool. We had the lights off and the blinds open and we were watching it, but I didn't feel compelled to watch the whole thing. Like I was just like, all right,
Yeah.
that's cool. Whatever.
I'm never really excited about it until I get out there and start doing it. And then
Well,
I'm
you're
like, okay,
doing
this
it.
is
I get that. Like if I was
Well, I
lighting
mean,
them, if I was lighting them, I'd probably be into just the pyrotechnic aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like seeing them
My ear.
launch.
a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mention it because short of my most recent trip to New York, the last time I was in New York was when I came out to see you.
That was a long time
and
ago.
You were like living in that row house.
Yeah, Willow
Um,
Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Twin Towers were there. So like short of my
Wow.
recent visit, that
Yeah.
was the last time I was there. That had to be what, 96, 97?
Yeah, it had to be between 95 and 98.
And
Definitely.
you guys wouldn't believe it, but Jack's apartment has a fucking fantastic view of New York.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
pretty cool.
you can take pictures from your house and sell them as postcards, guaranteed.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, that was a really long time ago. But that would have been cool because you would have been seeing everything, and I'm sure they had boats that were setting them off. And
Yeah, no, it wasn't that elaborate this year. They had them going off over New York City, but we really had like a close-up view of the Jersey City ones, which was really a good show. I mean, as far as fireworks go,
Well,
but
My son,
I'm sorry.
my son did ask me when we were on the drive home. Crazy that you guys live live so close to New York. He was like, "Mom, what do they do in like New York City for fireworks? Like, they can't go in the street and light them because they
No,
don't go over the buildings?" And I was like, "I don't know. They probably just go on top of the buildings and light them up." So is that what they do? They just go
yeah,
on
no,
top?
they go along the riverside and they use boats. They do use
Yeah.
boats, but
Oh,
they
okay.
were the boats were in the East River this year. So like Zeus is right, but I couldn't see the boats. They weren't on my side. I live on the Hudson River, but we could still see them over the tops of the skyline. You know what I mean? And then obviously we had the close up view here. I don't know if you guys, speaking of fireworks, do we want to get into the state of America right now,
Well,
or
America.
do you guys want to start with the court decisions or just the state of the country as far as how people feel about it?
I've got a good lead in to
Go
that.
ahead, Zeus.
And it has to do with the 4th of July. Like, the reason why I went to Burke Lake to go see the fireworks is it said July 4th, there'll be fireworks. But there was nobody there. And then I come to find out that they did theirs on like the 2nd, and all these other places that I could have gone to was like on the 3rd, on the 2nd, on the 5th, on the 6th, whatever. And it does kind of translate to the dilution of like patriotism. And I'm not all like rah, rah, rah America. I mean, I love America. I was in the military, all that stuff. But it does kind of lend to that they're like, well, 4th of July is not that important if we do it on the day that we've done. Up until recent years, it was always July 4th, unless there was like rain or something like that. So yeah, it does lend to, like I said, a little less patriotism. Maybe it's not like brutal, but there's an argument that people just don't care that much about it anymore. Would you agree, or am I?
I think because it was on a
totally off
Tuesday
base?
this year. I think that's what it was. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
people
you're
were
right.
doing the shows on Saturday, then some on the Monday. I think it was just how it fell in the week. But to me,
I feel like when I was a kid,
kind of
it was
it's the
on the
opposite,
4th.
Zeus, because it's more like a little 4th of July season because it's
Yeah,
going
but-
from
but-
Saturday all the way to Tuesday.
But am I incorrect in my memory that 4th of July was a day you had off, and it didn't matter because it was a day you had off, and you went out?
Yeah, but you don't got the next day off.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, you got to go.
Fair
and
enough,
work
but they usually
Tuesday
end by like
morning.
10 o'clock.
People like to drink and blow up their
Cool.
fingers, and you need that
Burn their
hospital
face.
day the next day.
Mhm.
Thank God for them, because they keep me working.
Hmm.
So
know,
let's
I
get
don't
into
feel-
decisions. I
No.
guess that wasn't that poignant of an observation, just to me.
Well, it's kind of like how
Um,
people do Christmas like that. People do Thanksgiving like that. I mean, it's just because it's more. It's not that you don't care about. You do care about the holiday, but you care about more like the aspect of like hanging out with the family and spending it with your family, and so you're going to do it. And it's more convenient for others with the whole family. Work things. Maybe it was more convenient for the city to light fireworks off on a Saturday. I don't know, but
Yeah, probably. And they want to draw
sorry.
people and make money selling beer and food and all that. So they do it on a night, like you guys said, there's no work the next day.
yeah, that's a
know.
good point.
Yeah,
But we
Yeah.
got like a few shows out of it. There was a show on Saturday where my kids went, and then I watched the one on Monday night, and then on the 4th we did our own fireworks. So I mean, we were able to get a lot out of it.
Yeah, no, our big show was actually the night of the 4th. I mean, so there was the recognition of the day, even though it was a Tuesday or whatever. So I
Yeah,
think it
that's
just
true.
depends on where you are, really, and the rules that dictate.
Did people where you guys live like get fucking wild though the week of leading up to the 4th of July? And it's like like the law says you can do fireworks from July
yeah.
maybe June the 30th to
No,
July the 5th, and that is it. And I swear to God, all those days it's just like pew, pew,
You're
pew, pew,
hearing
pew,
them
pew.
like
It's
every
like
night.
constant.
Yeah.
Does anybody know if there's like some Latin equivalent to the 4th of July that is on the 3rd, because in Annandale, there's a really large Latino community.
At
And
Cinco
I
de Mayo?
swear to
Yeah,
God.
Cinco de Mayo.
Well, that's the 5th of
That's
May.
May the 5th.
Right. Oh, you're talking about Zeus. I'm sorry. You're talking about July 3rd is big
I'm
amongst.
talking about July 3rd. I swear to God,
That's
there was more
Julio de
fireworks going
Treo.
on. Hmm?
What is it, Tom?
So,
Julio de Treo.
Julio de Treo.
Jeez,
Yes,
I don't- I think
Tom.
Julio is
Julio de
June.
Treo?
I think
Jesus,
A big holiday, you know, the
Treo?
one. Julio de
maybe it's
That's
de
Treo.
some
Trace.
shit right
Trace
there.
de Julio. I think
Is that
Julio might be
even a-
June.
This might end up being the shortest episode ever.
Oh,
No, but
We
man,
need Mike.
they were going
Goddamn.
off.
Julio.
They were going
Julio.
off all night on the 3rd, and then the 4th, nothing. And like I said, I'm not. It's not a prejudicial thing, but where I live is a very large Latino community. Love them, get along with them, great. They're great people, but man, they were going off with the fireworks on
It's-
July 3rd.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go with the everybody's got the next day off theory. That
Maybe-
just makes
Yeah.
that
You
makes
can
the
really
most
go wild
sense to
the
me.
day before.
Yeah, that would because then it's the holiday, so
Yeah, so I think that's all that is. I don't
nothing's
think
coming
it's.
nothing's coming up for Julio
July
de
3rd.
Trace.
We got.
Oh,
a
I know.
top-notch
Wait, I
Trace
know what
schedule.
July 3rd is. I know what July 3rd is. How could I forget? It's one of my favorite movies. It's Return of the Living Dead Day.
Yeah, no
Wah,
fireworks in
wah.
that movie.
Well, no, there's a lot of fire and stuff. They get nuked at the end.
There's
Sorry
a
to
lot of
spoil
fire
it.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to
Wow.
the decisions.
You know who these three
Yes,
people
let's
are
talk about the
behind me
decision.
by any chance?
Yeah, Tom, I think that's the Supremes.
Well, no, it's Gorsuch, Thomas, and Kavanaugh.
Oh, Jesus. This
Hey,
is what.
while we've got to pause before the decisions, I just want to throw out a congratulations to our boy Mikey P. The wife is pregnant and he just bought a
Wow.
house.
Wow, good for
Oh.
Mikey P.
Good for him. He's a good guy. Like him a
Yeah.
lot. We'll find the guy that impregnated his wife and take him down. But
Mm.
outside of that, no, real happy
Oh, that's
for him.
great
He's
for
a
Mike.
great-
Good for him.
Yeah, hope to have him on soon.
At least one
So let's
Mike
talk
is
about these
having a good night.
decisions.
What's that, Tom?
I said at least one Mike is having a good night.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's got a good podcast too.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
does.
check him
I
out.
watch it pretty regularly. Huh?
I said, yeah, go check them out. Mikey P.
Yeah. What is it? We speak English
He's
good.
gonna- yeah.
Yeah, we
Speak
speak
English
English
good.
good. That's it.
I mean, I don't speak no English good, but
No,
I get
me
caught
neither.
up in his episodes a lot. He's got a flair, man. I want to see
Yeah,
him
he's
go
good.
big and ride his coattails.
That's right.
So let's talk about the decisions.
Okay.
all right, number
Affirmative
one.
action.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
doing affirmative action first.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the big
go for
one,
it.
right?
Oh yeah, you guys go first.
No, I said go for it. That's a
No,
great.
you go first.
Okay.
You're the knowledge. You're the law. You're the law here.
Yeah, I don't read all the Supreme Court cases that get
yeah,
handed
but you
down.
know law stuff.
I know about as much as you
I
guys
bet you
do.
you know how many
Okay.
Supreme Court
Well,
justices
here's
left.
what I know. The
Oh,
court.
wait. Mike quote right now. This is my favorite episode ever.
Oh, there you go. Yes. No. Okay. Essentially, I mean, everybody knows that we have, the current group of Supreme Court justices, to say the least, leans to the right a little bit,
Mhm.
not consistently, not on every decision. They don't always decide in a way that pleases conservatives. I wouldn't say that, but most of them currently do lean conservative, in as far as what we know about the judges, prior rulings, their prior education and public statements made, their decisions that they've made as they rose the ranks to the Supreme Court. By the time they get to the Supreme Court, generally there's enough of a basis in their federal rulings where you can tell, so right now we've got a majority of conservative judges. And I think that knowledge, knowing who you're dealing with, and then the decision that got handed down obviously has led to, a lot of upset people. a lot of political attacks. There have been proposals now to pack the Supreme Court with more justices, basically so they could lopside it the other way, or to set age limits on them or term limits. So that's really what's happening as a result. So as far as the decisions go, the first one we should talk about, as Des mentioned, is that a legal issue was brought before the court, and it was a complaint from Asian American students, basically based on evidence of the way admissions are administered at Harvard and the University of North Carolina specifically. They cited actual factual numbers of essentially affirmative action being used. I mean, the rationale for affirmative action being used in college admissions, to the point where an Asian student would, I wish I had the exact number, but would potentially have to score 200 points higher by virtue of their race alone than an African American or Hispanic student. The odds also leaned against white students. So essentially, trying to create equity, the college admission board put more weight into the applications submitted by Black applicants and Hispanic applicants, and made it more difficult for white and Asian specific students to get in. And so that broke up the percentages, where if you had, like, by example, the top 1% in academic achievement, so we're talking the scores on the tests, the grade point average, etc. When they looked at the top 1%, something like 57% of those top 1%ers had to be African American, or at least turned out to be. And if you were Asian, you had the toughest chance. Only about 12% of Asians in that top bracket got in. And it became very obvious to the Asian population of people that would apply to these colleges that they were given a raw deal, that they had to jump extra hurdles to get in. Whereas by virtue of being born Black or Hispanic, you got legs up in terms of your academic prowess and your academic accomplishments. And so the court broke it down. They used the 14th Amendment, the equal protection, I believe, clause. And they said basically this was just another form of racism, and that you were giving this admission, this grant, literally like on the basis of skin color and ethnicity. So you had to, so if you checked that box, you got an advantage by a significant margin to someone who checked another box. And that just didn't fly with this conservative court. They didn't succumb to the social justice arguments that were made by the dissent. That's my understanding of that ruling. And obviously that's had a divisive attack, like I mentioned. The liberals are up in arms about this, and they're already starting their own lawsuits.
What are the liberals say?
Like,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. How is it that what is the term, industrial racist, or what is the term? One of you guys will know, because I just don't even.
Industrial,
institutional racism.
Institutional racism. How is that the case? This sounds, I mean, if it is, it's kind of a reverse situation. I mean, the inequity in what you just described is unbelievable. What I want is, in the world, leaders of industry, leaders of the country, the best goddamn McDonald's manager ever. I want the best to have those things, not the African American or the Asian or the white guy. I want the best. Whoever that happens to be is what, is equal. Whoever is working hard to get to the best place they can, that's who I want on everything. I don't know if that sounds racist. I don't think it is. I want just the best.
It
you
does
want-
sound a little bit racist. You say you
Why is
want
that?
you basically want a meritocracy,
Yeah,
not
meritocracy.
No,
not-
I want the
not
best
based on
person for the
equity.
job.
No, you
I
want
want
everybody you want everybody to have to achieve the same bar or higher, and you want the best to get the most important roles. I understand that. That's
Or even roles that you and I may not find important, but to other people it's a step up.
yeah,
You
that's
know?
right.
I want the people that work hard and earn their place. The ones that pick themselves up by the bootstraps, that take the lumps. And you know what?
Well, and
Probably
that's-
a lot of times.
Right, but Zeus, that's their argument. They would say by saying I want the hardest working, the smartest, the best, they would say, well, what you're saying based on the disparity in numbers in, let's say, the SAT score results, that you're saying that Asians are just plain smarter and more hardworking than black people, and
No,
that's
I'm
the
saying
uncomfortable.
if a white guy fills that role, let them have it. If a Filipino fills that role, let them have it. If a Japanese person,
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But their argument for this type of affirmative action is that black and Hispanic people, just by virtue of giving them this lower standard, that they just have a harder time getting that achievement. And then if you combine that argument with what you're saying, you're basically saying these people are having a harder time just competing.
Jack, that falls flat though, because how do you explain that the Asians got, the highest scores?
No, Tom, I totally agree with you. I mean,
I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that to everybody that's listening.
No, I get it. I was just presenting their argument.
isn't it funny how if you throw affirm on anything, it suddenly becomes a whole different thing?
Mm-hmm.
Gender affirmation, affirmative action. I'm not against the concept of giving people a better shot at picking themselves up. That's fucking great.
Well, that's what they're saying.
I have a problem with doing that without any history of their lives and what they've done. If they're working hard for it, by God, give them fuck.
No, see,
whatever they want.
I disagree. I mean, I think meritocracy is a better argument. I don't think it's racist to say this is how smart you have to be to get into this great school. That's our requirement. Race be damned. And then if there seem to be disparities between who's good enough, like let's say Harvard suddenly becomes all Asian and white, right? Let's say that happened theoretically, and then that's fucked up. Which wouldn't be true, by the way. There are black students that are going to make that bar. You know what I mean?
Conan O'Brien's a ginger. We don't want them fucking leading the world.
No, what I'm saying is that there's going to be smart people representing every racial group, right?
Yeah.
Because there's smart people out there, and period. But if you have a majority of students of a particular race who can't get over that hurdle, then you need to address the reasons why that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not genetic. It's not any kind of it's not Hispanic people.
No,
it's
industrious behavior.
It's industrious behavior, and it's also the education that they're getting from the Department of Education and the public education system.
And that's the argument.
Part.
It's like they don't have access.
Part.
They don't have access, or people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds don't have access or the ability to achieve or whatever because they're being held back by their school system. Because
but why is that happening? Why is that happening?
It's just like America's talking shit on itself.
No, it's a bureaucracy. That's why it's happening. And they're actually passing these kids, graduating high school students.
Yes, they are.
That can't competently do math or read.
It starts from kindergarten. They start doing that. I know that for a fact.
But you think
they just pass the buck. They just want you to graduate because they want their graduation rates to be good. They don't really care about the actual achievement rates.
And that's a problem that the Department of Education and the public school system, that needs to be addressed. I think there's other issues too. You know what I mean? I think it does start if you're gonna say that all this money that's taxed from everybody goes toward this department to ensure that we have an educated next generation. And the disparity is so clear, then that has to be addressed by the federal government. Get your department in line. Stop just throwing more money on it because it's bullshit.
So I have a
Well,
question real fast. Is Harvard and like most Ivy League schools, are they considered private or like they're not public?
no, no.
Harvard
not.
is
Most of them-
private. Ivy
most of
League
them
is
are
private.
private.
So then by that standard, I mean, if you're a private company, basically, I mean, a school, it's a business of education, you know, why is it that, I mean, my son goes to private schools. We don't have to abide by what the USD 259 says for like rules most of the time. But like, so why is Harvard having to release, or any Ivy League school really having to really, why is this affirmative action affect them so much? I mean,
It's like
can't they
any
just say, well, we're not going to do
privately
that?
owned business. I mean, if you have a hamburger stand, you have to serve everybody.
Well, yeah, and they would serve everyone. They just
And you
wouldn't.
have to
They
employ
would just
Even if I'm
wouldn't
privately
allow
owned.
17 Black people into a program because they have to. Like, they'd still let the smartest individuals in. It doesn't matter what their race is. But
Oh, you
I
mean like
find it
you mean like
personally-
why are they doing it?
mhm.
Okay, like why are they? Well, that's the same question we ask about why are the corporations catering to the globalist ESG? Like there's a social movement that's been in place for a long time. And equal protection under the law in terms of not being discriminated against.
This is
Like
not
we
discriminating
all
against.
we all
though.
believe that. Like there's not anybody that thinks that that's the whole thing with this decision. If you're against discrimination based on race, like if you, then you kind of have to side with what the judges did, don't you? And that's what I don't get that the liberal is selling, because if we're all supposed to be colorblind and racially blind, then what's wrong with everybody having to pass the same test the same way?
I don't know. And to be honest, if you want to get into like, you know, the school of hard knocks, if you will, Asian American students probably have it a lot worse than a lot of other because their parents are so strict about their
Mhm.
education. And I mean,
Well,
they're
maybe that's why it's working for them.
yeah, parent your
That's-
children.
You know
But,
what I mean? Like,
you
are we
know.
talking that it's a cultural issue? Like, I think you could argue that Asian Americans, like you said, they have it worse because their parents actually parent. Okay, you know
And
what I mean?
sometimes
Like,
it's a little bit too much, but
well,
that's how they
that's a
do.
judgment call from our own culture to theirs. I mean, the
Yeah,
fact
that's-
is,
yeah.
a lot of these Asian students that get into these places, they're not all crazy rich Asians and legacies. These are
Mm-mm.
people from poor to middle class families that are
They're usually
busting
the
their
first
ass.
generation. Yeah.
They're busting their ass to make sure that the next kid has a better life than
Mhm.
they did. You know, so what are they doing right? Maybe that's the bigger issue. Like maybe it's
Yeah,
important
that's
to
a-
actually make sure your kid does extra work. Maybe it's more important to make sure your kid takes practice tests and work. You know what I mean? Like maybe you go over the homework with the kid, or you say, "Hey, kid, do your homework before you go out to play," and that'll only be for an hour, because then you're going to come back and you're going to, I don't know,
Do
practice
piano
on
lesson.
the piano lesson, right? Maybe that's the way to get your kid into Harvard. Maybe that's a crazy idea. Like I don't know.
Well, you know, if
problem-
you can't pay
yeah.
for piano lessons,
Not all these Asian
hardship.
people are not all Asian people are rich, Des. Just like not all
Right.
white people are rich.
no, I understand
They're
that. I'm
just
just
not.
saying that's one of the arguments saying that, you know, Hispanic and Black people typically do not have access, which I don't believe this to be 100% true, but typically they don't have access to a lot of other things that white students or Asian students would have access to, which we all have access to the same things.
I know. No, I mean,
I know
remember.
it's a money situation, but I mean, if you want something bad enough,
Yeah, you work hard and you get it. I don't know. When I went to law school, and this was in South Florida, I would say that the large majority of my classmates and friends were Hispanic.
mhm,
They just were, you know,
there's
because
a lot of
they
Hispanic people down there.
right. And not only that, some of them were really rich and some of them weren't. You know what I mean? Like it kind of
Mhm.
went across the board. And then you had middle class people like me. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think you can draw lines and check boxes and get an extra bonus. Like, oh, I can do 250 points worse on the SAT because my color of my skin is this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like look at Elizabeth Warren. How far did she get claiming to be Native American? Pretty far.
Tom, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, I don't think it for Harvard, I don't think it's getting them where they ought to be in terms of diversity. Harvard is one of the least diverse places, least diverse schools in the
Well, that's an
country.
argument for that they would make. They'd say, look, it's not diverse enough.
No, well, they're very diverse in terms of race and everything, but they're like 90, I think I heard they're like 95, 96% liberal at Harvard.
Oh, that's a whole school of thought.
So there's like zero diversity in terms of the thought and in terms of their backgrounds and you know, politics and things like
I mean,
that. So
There's no college Republican group at Harvard.
that's not a
it's
very small.
Yeah, 4%. You know, and it's like, now this is probably not part of the woke movement, but it is kind of a changing of the words. Let's define diversity different than what the word is supposed to mean. It's supposed to mean, I mean, diverse is a collection of different
Like-minded
alternative.
people.
Yeah, that's diversity. That's true diversity. Like, you really want to have a diverse school?
And
You
for a
have
school of education, you know, the brain should be the forefront of what they're focused on.
right, and that is probably a longer term thing. Like, that might be the genesis of the whole woke movement, but definitely diversity has changed its definition multiple times over the past 30, 40, 50 years. And, you know, I'm good with like people wanting opportunities that were not afforded to them before. That's fine, but earn it. And that's white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Aboriginal, whatever. It should just be, again, the best. Give people of those varying whatever backgrounds they have more of an opportunity to show what they got, but to give it to somebody based on their being different than you, and that's it, is ridiculous. It's counter evolutionary. Like, how are we going to propel ourselves into the universe, you know, like space travel and all this, if we can't even get that shit straight? We have to evolve, which means there's a theory, I heard it years ago, called the ugly baby theory. And what it is like, you have, like, we'll just call them birds. And all these birds have blue plumes sticking up from their head. But then this one is born with a red plume. And it's never attacked by the predator because the predator finds red to be a deterrent. So the females find themselves more attracted to the one that is living longer. I don't know. It makes a lot of sense.
I'm trying to stay with you. I'm with you.
Well,
I'm
the
missing
red
out
plumes.
on this birds that
I
are
think I'm getting
different.
lost.
Keep going. Keep going.
The females are
Keep
attracted
Tom's
to-
like, what can I edit out later?
No, this isn't bad. The females are attracted to the one that's different because it's surviving longer. Which, you know, in a bird world, it's like, oh, that one's living longer, so it must be stronger.
Cat
Really,
didn't
it's
get
just
it today.
What's that?
The cat didn't drag it in today.
Exactly. And so they are gravitated toward that, and they notice that it looks different, and that's probably as far as their little bird brains go, but that's evolution. So now this group of birds, they're now all breeding over a long period of time, and they now all have this red plume that keeps them safe from the predators. You know, for the most part, not man, because we'll kill fucking anything. But that's what I'm saying, is like, that's evolution. You know, losing our tails as people. Like, there's a million.
Yeah, but wait, but you got to help me out. What does evolution have to do with the equal protection clause?
Diversity.
Saying because the people that are different that make it farther are seen and more maybe sought after, and then that you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think,
But in this example, Zeus, the diverse people are not doing as well. They're struggling. So they're
Well,
trying
hold
to,
on, but again, like
pull
Jack
them
said,
in.
why are they struggling? Because honestly, okay, here's the thing: if you are a smart person, if you are, Shaquita from down the street, and you have your nose in a book since the time you knew how to read, and you were just like Googling everything, and go
Studying.
into the library, you bought your own set of encyclopedias because you just were interested in everything. I mean, you bought them at the Goodwill for $3 because that's how much they are nowadays, the whole set. But I mean, things like that doesn't really, that's not, if you're smart, you're smart. When you go to take a standardized test, which is what they're looking for in these situations, like, your ACT or SAT, and then going beyond that, you have like your LSAT or your MCAT or whatever. Taking those tests isn't inherently about knowledge. It's about taking the test.
About retention.
It's about how to take the test. When I took my nursing licensure test, I didn't even know what the fuck the questions were asking me. I just knew how to take the test. I knew how to read the questions and take the test.
Yeah,
and that's what a lot of
question
standardized
bank.
tests get to. It's not necessarily about the knowledge that you have to have and gain, and all these experiences and the world travels and the history. Like, it's not in the education you were given at school, because you have to know all this stuff for the test. This ain't Jeopardy.
Well, that's
part
just,
of it, though.
right. I mean, that's a recent phenomenon where they actually have these schools where you learn how to beat the test, which is not the same as, so you have an aptitude at taking this particular test, is what you're saying, but you don't necessarily have all that knowledge through hard studying and retention. Like, in other words, there's ways to trick the test. Is that what you're getting at?
No, what I'm saying is, okay, Jack, when you took the LSAT,
Yeah.
did
I
you?
took-
I mean,
Yeah,
some
I
of those
took
questions, did you
no,
know what
totally.
they were even asking you, but you
Well,
knew
no,
how
I
to
can
answer
tell.
the question.
Well, no, they trained, like you said, I took a Kaplan class on
Mhm.
how to tackle the LSATs. And so I know that over the course of this, I don't know, maybe 6-week course that I took, they made you do 3 practice exams, one in the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end before you took the real.
Yep, and
And
it's
my
just training
score,
you how
and
to.
right, and my score got better as I went. But from what I remember about the SATs, like with the LSATs, it wasn't like there was no real way to study for it. It wasn't like the bar exam. I mean, it was really just about how to
How
think
to do it.
logically and
Yeah.
how to critically think and how to do something called logic games. That's a whole, I don't even want to talk about logic games. But it didn't call for retention of any knowledge. When I took the SATs coming out of high school, there was a math portion and an English portion. And that really, I don't remember, there was no training on how to take the SAT that I remember. It was really just how many Latin derivatives could I figure out the definition of words from, and how good was I at math when I went to high school. I mean, it was a knowledge-based test.
Right, but
And
if you are a
and that's,
smart person,
oh, sure.
inherently, I mean, the
Well,
concepts
they
on the
have,
SAT and the ACT,
no,
SAT, they're not that difficult. I mean, they could be.
Des, I mean, right, they could be. And that's why you and I both agreed before that the problem is these people are being, these people, meaning kids in poor districts, Black, Hispanic, white, whatever, they're being graduated at these staggering rates without competency in math and English. Why is that happening? And
Because they're just kicking the can.
that's across the board with the federal and with the Department of Education. The solution can't be what they're doing. It just can't be,
And
or
Jack,
it goes back to the cultural thing, maybe, where the numbers are, or in other words, like Desiree cited how hard it is to be, your average Asian kid growing up in an Asian household based on what we know, right? Because we've heard the stories of all the homework and less fun and the two parents making sure that you get these perfect grades. Maybe every kid needs that, and maybe some communities don't have that.
Well,
it could be that.
And two things. First of all, the person that invented, Jack, you'll probably know the answer to this one. I have a instinct that you'll know this. Whoever created like standardized testing apparently said this should never be used in an educational format.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, have you heard? I don't quote me word for word on that, but basically the person that created standardized testing was like, this should only be used in certain formats because otherwise it's not really fair, even though the term is standardized.
Is that is that like the IQ test, or is that something different?
I think just standardized tests in general, because they are set to standards. So like you can raise or lower that bar, is my thinking as to why they would feel that it was not appropriate for an educational.
Yeah, maybe they didn't like
situation.
the whole notion of the curve, maybe that's it. But hey, look,
Perhaps.
guys, that's one case, right? And there were two others that Mike wanted to discuss. So I don't
Hold
know.
on, I just have one quick thought. Just
Okay.
as quick. Okay, so I've always kind of thought, if you were a Black student or a Hispanic student and you knew that you got into medical school, law school, whatever school, just because you were Black, not because you deserved it. What how, are you good with that? Do you feel like you really, got to be in there? I don't know. I just, I almost wonder how, to what degree is affirmative action actually a little bit maybe harmful?
I wouldn't.
Right. No,
I wouldn't feel good about it, but
Right.
that has nothing to do with my race. That has to do with my own personal.
No, that's what she's saying. She's saying if you, she's
No,
saying
I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing.
Maybe
with
not
her.
like, University of, UCLA or whatever, just a college, but like if you got into a program, where they use like actual, numbers, like you have to have this many people of this many people of that.
Right.
And the only reason you got in is because, you were Black, and, there were more people that were more qualified than you, but, that's why you got in. Like, I kind of would feel, I don't know. I just kind of feel like that's a little bit also too racist, but all right.
Yeah. No, I think that
Moving on.
comes down to the individual. I'm sure there's some kids that feel like maybe this isn't so fair because, if it happened to me, I would feel, that wouldn't be right. Like if you have any empathy, you realize that somebody got screwed so that
And
you
there's
could
been
go to that
lawsuits.
school.
Yeah.
And it's probably your buddy that you were studying with.
But it could be a lot of people nowadays, and this goes back to the division of the country. A lot of people might feel, well, too bad, so sad. There's institutional racism, so I deserve to be here because of like things that happened to my great ancestors, 150 years ago. So I should be here. Maybe there's that kind of an individual too. But the bottom line, the reason why the court did this, we all know it, because if you get, it's equity. It's a matter of equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome. It's a version, like Mike would say, this is a version of Marxism. Everybody gets the same thing, and if I'm giving more to this group, I got to take away from this group, which is really when you allow race to be the means of some races getting in over others, that's racism. I mean, it just is, because these Asian students were getting screwed. They just were, and now a lot of the people are arguing, well, now we're going to protest legacies. We don't want legacies getting into Harvard. And everybody knows what a legacy is. That means if my father went to Harvard, then I'm going to get a little bonus in my application because because he went to Harvard. I don't see what one has to do with the other. Rich people are always going to have advantages and privileges, and alumni that pay a lot of money, they're going to get a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I mean, that's just the nature of mankind. It's corruption. It's just a form of that. You know what I mean? I don't know what you do about that. Do you punish legacies and say you need to get a higher score? Like we're going to make Asians and legacies have to do better.
The only way I think you can stop this all together is when you do a college application or a program application, you don't put your name on it, you put a number on it. And then you have to get rid of personal statements that have anything to do with race.
Yeah, see, that's the trouble, is Harvard's already said, okay, well, the Supreme Court allows us to take into consideration personal statements and personal struggles. So they're going to get around this BS anyway. I mean, they just are, I mean, if some kid says, I grew up in a bad neighborhood, I saw somebody get shot when I was 5, I was raised by a single mom who made 20 grand a year, and look, these are my pretty good scores. you know, the board of admissions isn't stupid. They're going to say, okay, well, what are the based on the current inequality socially and financially, even though this person didn't put their race down.
Chances are his name's not Chad Wentworth.
Well, that
Right.
sounds
Yeah.
like my story. I mean, I was
Right.
raised by a single mom, grew up in a shit neighborhood, and she worked a gas station. You know,
No,
didn't
Des,
talk to me about that.
and
So I mean,
yeah,
Hey,
no, you're right.
listen,
but
you're
you
right.
didn't. You
It's-
didn't put. But you weren't talking about the hardships of just based on the fact that
Of a race.
those things happen to you because you're Black. Those things happen to you.
Right.
Yes, they shape who you
Yeah.
are, but
Yeah. Well, it's just going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to have people just write personal statements in 2023 without acknowledging their culture or their race, because everybody knows you get points for it. And Harvard's going to keep looking at that.
Jack, you can attest to this. When I met you, I had no degrees.
No, none.
I mean, I was doing. I mean, for the time, I was a manager at the Smith. You know, I won't say the name of the company, but I was manager where we were working. I was doing okay. I was making okay money, but I was a high school dropout. I got my GED in the Army. And here I am. I'm not saying I'm like top of the world, but
you're doing very well.
I'm doing okay. I'm not very well. I got to fix a few more things, but I'm getting there. But my point being is, you know, from there, when you knew me, and I was a nice guy, I'm still a nice guy. I work. I always, you know, tried to do the right things. Sometimes failed, but now here I am. I got an associate's and a bachelor's. I own my own home, 2 cars. I got beautiful, really smart kids, and what I love about this show, and this has been coming up a lot in my own like little thoughts, is the thing I love about this show more than anything is whether we're ever famous or whatever, is I like the fact that we like put back out into the universe. Like, and I am kind of being metaphysical, but like we're not just like on our Tuesday nights just sitting back and watching The Voice or whatever. We get together, we give our thoughts, we try and be compassionate, empathetic, all these things, but we're putting something back out rather than just like consuming like so many people do.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, for myself, I'm proud, not because necessarily I'm the greatest person on the planet, but I like the fact that I'm part of something that is giving out there. Maybe our thoughts are going to be offend some people, but some of our thoughts, people are going to stop and go, that makes a lot of sense. One day we're going to be walking down the street and, you know, maybe we'll bump into somebody that actually watches the show and they say something that could only be a reference from the show. How good are you going to feel about that?
No, that's true. I mean, and just to keep us on track here, your larger point is that you had your struggles growing up, and so did Desiree, and so did I.
I grew up with the name Desiree.
This is gonna have, there's gonna be so much editing involved, or we just let it fly. Like Zeus says, at least we have opinions, we put them out there. A lot of people are on the sidelines, so that's the whole point. That's why some people have feelings about this decision one way and other people feel the other way, and they're both pointing the finger at the other one. Like, well, you know, it is racist to want affirmative action. Oh, you're racist because you don't want affirmative action. The shit never ends.
Let's talk about Joe Biden.
Joe Biden versus
I think Mike's up next week, and he's probably gonna get to talk about the investigation. Let's not go all over the place.
Oh, there's an investigation on the student loans?
There's a big investigation.
Oh,
but
really?
anyway, the other 2 decisions, one of them basically had to do with Biden's, you know, edict from on high, from the balcony of the White House, where he had said, I'm going to forgive all, you know, student loans, or a percentage of student loans for a percentage of people.
$20,000.
Right. Probably not for everybody, though, because I know I didn't get any notice that I was going to get a break at all.
I didn't either, but $20 ain't going to touch my student loans. Or
well, a lot of people did get notification that they would be made aware later. Now, so the court essentially shot that down. They said he doesn't have, as the head of the executive branch, he doesn't have that sweeping authority, and it's more of a matter for the legislature. And they probably got into the reasons why, like everybody being taxed to give free education for a college education, while some people actually paid for it. I'm not.
and
But
Well,
that's
no.
another. That's another
On the
one that
face
the
of that-
liberals are upset about it because they wanted free student loans.
And on the face of that, I think it stinks. I paid every bit of my college,
Student loan
education
debt.
on my own as I was going through, working full time. It gives you value. It gives it value because I really earned it. I paid for it. I'm damn sure going to use it. Again, Pell Grants, things like that, things that you have to work just a smidge to show that you are really interested. I think those things are important, but I don't need that money back. And maybe I'm lucky, maybe I'm successful, maybe I'm better than I look at myself, but at the end of it all, I did it all. I paid for it all by myself, no loans. I think that's really how it should be.
So how
Yeah.
much
gotta
was it
want
a credit hour when you were going to school? Not
Depends on
nursing
the
school. Not nursing school.
It depends on the school too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I went to community colleges up until I got my bachelor's, which I got at like an accredit. It was a very good online university, as far as you can say, good online.
Well, it doesn't matter. I
university.
mean, how much was the credit hour? How much per credit hour was it?
For there, it got much more expensive. It was probably like $600-700
On
a
your
credit
online
hour.
school?
Yeah, so it got a little expensive, but when I was going to Nova, it was probably like $350. I mean, it's achievable,
Well, wait.
take a break.
Not when it's 1,400 a credit hour. Not when
Well,
you're
No,
taking
that's-
16 hours or credit hours a semester.
Well, wait a
I mean,
second.
that's what I was doing.
This also
Here's the
goes
thing,
back
though.
to
You go
where
to the-
you go to what school are you applying to?
Right.
Does it cost 80 grand a year to go to like Boston College or whatever? Either way, you apply for the
Nice
student
nod there,
loans.
Jack.
No, you apply for the federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans, whether it's to go to law school like I did or to go get your undergraduate. You're still applying to this really expensive school. And the federal government takes tax money and says, okay, we'll send you to that school. We're going to pay for it. So they pay the
Yes, but Jack,
administration.
the
But look,
implication-
they're paying the tuition of these expensive colleges with taxpayers' money. And now they're saying, hey, guess what? You signed a contract that you were going to pay that back. Now you no longer have to pay it back. We don't expect the revenue back. And that devalues the dollar. That increases taxes. It's also not
Yeah,
fair.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. I'm
No, I know
actually
you're
fine.
saying no, you're saying Pell Grants and whatever. But I'm saying it doesn't matter how much the credit costs. If you apply to that school and you sign
It's
a
the value of
contract,
the school.
well, right, the school's
But-
already been
and-
paid. The school doesn't give a shit. They've already gotten their money from the feds. And now the
And
feds
that's
are
the big-
basically saying, hey, you don't have to pay us back. Fuck it. We're just going to tax the people with money and you get a free college education to
That is so offensive to me. It's like,
yeah, and that's why
Wow.
they shot it down. They were like, wait a minute, you
now
can't
in deference to where you went to school, because Jack, just so you guys noticed, Jack's little Boston College random references where he went to school.
I say
But
that.
no,
I say Zeus. I say that in anger because it didn't used to
No,
cost that.
I know.
It didn't. No, it
That's
didn't. It didn't used to cost that much, and the federal government is just throwing them more money. They're just throwing money at BC and saying, "Well, it's okay because these people are going to pay it back later." Oh, by the way, now they don't have to pay it back, and that
Well,
raises
and-
everybody's taxes. I mean, that's the problem.
And where I'm from, the community college that I went to, hands down, anybody that came from the community college that I went to and got their associates in nursing, they're the first ones that get grabbed up. Northern Virginia.
Yeah, mine
Community
too, but
College.
that's not the conversation. It's the cost.
Yeah.
I mean, in 1950, the going to school was like $80 a credit hour. Well,
Right.
different. I don't know. Tom, what do you
Well,
think about student loans?
So
Yeah, Tom, what do you
Jack's
think?
college education, though, Jack's college education, there is some equity in saying that you went to Boston College.
I see.
Like,
There's
I
some
don't-
equity in
certainly
saying you
gonna
went to
get
law
looked at.
school.
Yeah, there's some
Well,
equity in saying I went to Harvard too, which is why everybody who's
Right.
smart is trying to get into it. I
But
mean,
does it really do?
that's
Does it really
just
do it
you,
for you?
right? Whether it does, I think
no,
it
it's
takes.
just for me.
I
It's
think
more
it,
where you're paying. Are you paying at the front? Or are you paying at the back? Like Boston College,
I think
yes,
we're
you're
getting
paying a lot
sidetracked.
more. Well, not really. Boston College, you're paying a lot more, but you got some instant cred just
I
by
see.
saying.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
so. I don't think
I
so.
don't
And
think so.
No?
that's not the conversation though. It has nothing to
No,
do with
it's
that.
got nothing to do with any of it.
Because
Huh?
you can go to, whatever school, but again, if you're the best of the best, it don't really matter where you went to school.
It also
I agree.
matters. It also matters what your personality is like, how well you interview.
How well you network with people.
Yeah, whether the
Very
people in power at that job, let's say you went to friggin' Tallahassee JUCO or whatever, you apply for that particular job. It turns out that one of the members of the board went to
Went
Tallahassee
to
JUCO.
Tallahassee JUCO.
I mean,
I can
it's
go to
like,
Harvard to have the personality of a blade of grass, and
right,
that's probably not going to get me anywhere as a lawyer.
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
anyway, Tom, what do you think
Fair
of
enough,
student
but
loans?
Yeah,
but
Tom,
it
what do you
gets you
got?
to the interview.
Yeah, I think it's just if
No,
you
I
can't
thought-
afford it, don't go to those schools. Go to a school you can afford.
Yeah, really,
So-
the people that are going to benefit from that the most are the people that are really smart, do go to Boston College, much like Jack, and succeed because they have both the qualifications they need. They went to the good college that gets them in the door, and
It
they
didn't-
actually have a personality.
I don't
and the
think it helped.
intelligence back.
I'm with Des. I don't think it helped me at all. I remember struggling to find work. I mean, hell, Zeus, I ended up being a salesman at the Smith Company that you mentioned before with this college education. My other job, my
Mhm.
second job, was basically as a secretary for an industry association. So there I was coming out of BC with my big English degree, whatever, and I'm working two jobs making about minimum wage at both of them. So it wasn't like this bonus. But
You were selling TV Guide, though.
I think the issue again is whether or not Biden had the authority to do this, and the court said no, he simply didn't. That's a matter for the legislature. I mean, that's my understanding of that decision. And then the other decision, Mike
Oh wait,
wanted
but I
to.
had some really important things to say.
Okay, go
Okay,
for it.
they're relevant. Okay, so
No, I know they are. I just figured we got time constraints, but go ahead.
So, I think one of the biggest reasons that student loans are out of control, like you were saying, is it just costs too much. It doesn't need to cost that much. It doesn't
Right.
need to cost $17,000 a credit hour. It's not that much, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
No,
It
you're
shouldn't
totally
be
right.
that much.
You're
It
right.
doesn't need to be. I went to Wichita State. When I went to Wichita State, it was like almost $1,000 a credit hour. Now, because they won some championship, it's way more expensive, which
Mhm.
shouldn't be like that, but it is.
That's inflated administrative costs. There's a whole bureaucracy at the
Because
university.
then they're building, that I see why, but it's like that's not no. You're getting the same education, $1,100, $400 anyway.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where it starts.
yeah,
We need to fix
maybe a
that.
little bit more at one school than the other. But yes, generally, outside of little tweaks here and there, generally we're all learning the same things. You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
nurses, we're all learning BP is best at 180 over 20. Or 180 over
It's terrible.
120 over 80.
I don't know. You learned that one.
We're all learning. We're all learning
We're all
certain
teaching
things that yeah, don't I shouldn't teach. But we're all learning certain basic things that go across the board, where these other schools maybe are better is that they go to a next step. But
And I don't
overall,
think
everybody knows the same.
I don't really think it has anything to do with the education you get. You went to that school, you got an education, doesn't matter how great it was or how
Right.
terrible it was. So here's my story. I have $85,000 worth of student loan debt.
So
I've
do
never-
I.
$85,000. I have 2 degrees. I've never paid a student loan payment in my life.
Mm.
There's an interesting fact. They're not in default. They're not delinquent. I just play the system. But anyway, if I were to start paying on my student loans, the repayment is like the other issue that is, the the problem with this whole system. It's too expensive for one, and then the way that they want you to repay it is like, just ridiculous, because you can do like a standard 10-year thing and it's like X amount of dollars. But my student loan payment is like $1,200 if I was to do like the standard.
No.
But then if
How
I
do you
did like
get away with not paying it?
well,
She's savvy.
I think you can defer it for like a little bit, but I mean, how long has it been?
I mean, I graduated for the last time in 2014.
That's a Desiree. Can we
Okay.
talk privately later? Because I
Yeah.
want to know.
Yeah. We
You
can.
pay
Well, now the rules
taxes?
are different, so I don't know. Yeah, I pay taxes and I have a good
Okay.
credit score.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can defer it for a little bit, and then
Yeah.
once you kind of start, I think if you don't have a job, you don't have to pay or stuff like that.
No,
but-
I
There's
see.
lots of ways.
See, I've heard one of the ways, and and now we're talking about this, but I've heard
Hold
one
on,
of the
hold on.
ways.
Come back to
Yeah.
that because I want to finish my
No,
thought.
go
before I lose
ahead.
it. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the other way that you can repay them is like income based. Now what this is they say, okay, it's going to be from 5, 10, 15, 20%, depending on what you sign up for, percent of your what's it called? Discretionary income.
Mhm.
So like, how much money you got left after you're done paying for shit. Okay, that much, you can pay that much money towards your student loans. Well, the problem is if my payment is now, $63 a month, which like, yeah, that's great. But my interest is $125. It doesn't matter how long I can pay on those loans till I die, and I'll never even get to the principal because it's just gonna keep it. It's just like, you can't ever doing that. You can't ever get out.
It's a lifelong bill is what it is. It's a lifelong bill. Nobody, I mean, if you have that many student loans, like you said, you're just paying interest at this point. You're supposed to pay it every month till you die. And again, that can't be justification. Like the fact that it sucks can't be justification for just wiping all of that.
Well,
government debt.
I'm not saying that I need it. I deserve.
No, I'm not talking about you personally.
Actually, I think I do deserve something from that COVID shit we had to go through. You can give me a
That's-
little bit of extra for that,
That's true.
off my student loans. But $20,000 is not even gonna.
It's not a drop in the bucket.
That's my interest right now. So
Yeah.
whatever. And I think that's where a lot of people are. They're either like me or there's somebody that went to 4 classes, dropped out, never paid them, and that's really actually going to help them, because they're just now it's on their credit. They're not as savvy, taking out, doing things and whatever. So it's really helping them more than people in my situation, because I wouldn't even know if I got $20,000 off my loans. I'd be like, sure, okay. But yeah, I think just if I could pay like $300 a month, but they don't let you. You either have to do this income thing or you have to pay like the outrageous amount.
Can't you like
Right.
renegotiate it like a loan somehow?
No, because it's not like a regular loan. Because like a regular loan, if I said, "Hey, I'm going to pay you $300 a month," they're like, "Nah, I'm not taking your $300." Then like, well, I guess I'm
Probably
not
if you
paying
did
forever.
some kind of like debt consolidation, then
You can't
could,
do debt consolidation on a federal
but that
loan.
would like take it out of the bucket of student loan, and it would be like
What's also
Yeah.
interesting is bankruptcy does not make student
Nope.
loans go away.
But like you were saying, Tom, you can
Nope.
if you have non-federal, if they're not Fed grants or they're not federal loans.
Right. If they're
So
federal,
like if you had like the Perkins or whatever
Yeah,
loans
private
or
loan.
parent, yeah, you can consolidate them.
yes, I did that.
But I
My
can't
private.
consolidate mine.
Financial institutions are broken.
I think our education institutions are broken. I think on both of these decisions, they point that out. Something's inherently wrong with
And
the education system.
They don't tell you like when you're getting those loans. I'll say I
Mhm.
probably didn't need all that money. I didn't need
Right.
it.
Same.
But I wanted it because I was a single parent. I was, living it up. I
Same
wasn't
here.
using that money on my rent. I was using that for shopping trips and a vacation.
Hmm.
Not all of it, but the $800 I would have left over or whatever. Like it really wasn't helping me live because I didn't put it in the bank and save it for my bills.
See, no,
But-
I lived on the student loans, Des, because we had just when I went to law school, we had one baby already, and the other one was born while I was in law school. So even though I got a scholarship to my law school, like I got almost a full ride, I still needed the full weight of the federal
Yeah,
loans
because you need the money.
to pay for rent and diapers and
Yeah.
everything else.
And that's
So,
okay. But maybe I probably didn't need all that.
See,
But they don't tell you, like when you're getting the loans, they don't tell you every month, okay, this is probably what your payments now you
Right.
got this much money, your payment's probably going to be $800, just so you know, for the rest of your life.
Well,
Hey,
also,
your payment's gonna be like $1,200 for the rest of life. You sure you
Right.
want to do that? No, they don't
yeah,
tell you.
they don't tell you that. And also, Desiree, most of the people that are taking these loans out, a lot of the ones are straight to college from high school. They're 17 years old.
I was
They're
16 years old when I
yeah,
got my first student loan.
right. And
16.
they're told their whole lives, no matter, even if they don't know what they want to be when they grow up, they're told
can
you
be
have to
anything.
go to college.
That's
That's
how
what
you
they're
lose something in
told.
your life.
And like I
Shit,
remember
I
being
didn't get-
that kid. I remember
And you
getting
go
out
to
of
college and you graduate with your bachelor's and nothing.
and not
Gotta go
right
back.
and right. So now you
I
got
didn't get my first degree until like 32 years old.
well, the point is now you have kids that are taking on $80,000 in loans that
Just
they're
because
gonna
they think it's what they have to
just
do.
well, not only that, they're gonna get a bachelor's degree in Tibetan women's studies. Right. Unless you're gonna go all the way for your PhD so that you can write a book and lectures on it. What are you doing, kid? Like, what are you doing?
But I
They
think
just
not
don't.
making you any money.
the Supreme Court case, it doesn't really have anything to do with all this. The question
I know.
is, can the government come in and say, okay, we're gonna forgive a portion of your mortgage. We're gonna pay everybody's mortgage a little bit, not all of it, but like $20,000 or whatever.
That would be
Or we're gonna
great.
pay a portion of your car loan for everybody. Or we're gonna pay a portion of your business loan from the bank.
Well, if they broke it
Can they
down
do
that way,
that?
But haven't
That's
they
the
kind of
question.
done that a little bit? Like, you remember that Cash for Clunkers situation where they gave everyone money for bringing in their shit cars? Well, I mean, that
Yeah.
was just a little bit
It's
off
just
on
a
the front
trade-in.
end,
You
but
can do that.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but
again,
Tom-
it's $5,000 less off your how much it was off of your car
well,
note.
yeah, but Tom, that's the problem is that they're giving this little gift to people who pursued higher education. They're not doing it for mortgages or for car payment. They're not doing it
But that'll be
universally.
that'll be tomorrow. Why can't they do that then? If this was allowed.
Well, they're
And-
actually
and-
when it comes to mortgages, there's been talk in the legislature about punishing people in a way who pay their mortgages on time to help people who don't.
Right. Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean,
And-
so it's all about the
That's
social
gonna get struck
justice.
down, too.
It's all about the social justice. I mean, I think that they were selective too, and who was going to get the loan
Because it's
forgiveness.
the same thing. You talked about which college should you go to? Should you go to the expensive? Should you buy the expensive car? Then what if you can't
Mhm.
pay it off? Oh, maybe the government can come in and bail me out. What if you buy the big
Well-
house instead of the small house? Oh, the government will come in
Little-
and bail me
little
out.
poll
Why don't you
here.
just
You weren't
choose to
thinking
buy
of that
what
when
you
you're
can afford?
18 because you don't have any life experience. You don't know.
It's tax and
And you're-
spend, man.
and
Anybody
tax
can
and
claim
spend.
that, though.
Nothing can hurt you when you're that age. You're invulnerable. Let me
Well-
ask a little poll here. We've all been to college, right? We've all got a degree at least.
Yeah.
Jack, are your loans paid off?
God no, I'm like Desiree. I'll be paying them off for life.
Yeah, so why even pay him? If you're gonna pay him
You-
off for life, why the fuck pay him?
Mine are
That's
all
how I
paid
see it.
off. It took me a while, but I paid
So
them off.
half of us have our loans paid off, and half don't. It doesn't make any sense.
And
Well,
now
I can
hold on.
just-
So hold on. There's another. So now if I was gonna go try to, okay, I'll do the pay for the 10 years and then I'll get my loans forgiven because I'm, public service. Well, I can't even do that now because I'm married to somebody who makes a significant amount of money
Right.
now I would
Oh,
be paying more
yeah,
money than
yeah.
what my payment would be originally.
Right.
So it's
Well,
like a
that's-
shit
yeah,
situation.
that's-
But
present value.
right, Desiree, the problem is you signed a contract that agreed you were going to pay that money back, and you figured out a way not to, which is good for you.
Yeah, well, I
But
didn't know I was
Desiree,
gonna
you're
marry somebody
also
that made
not
pretty
in
good money in
prison
20
right
years.
now.
Well, good for
Also,
you.
You're also-
Did
You're
I
also
really
not
sign
being
him, or did my
too young.
my drugged out fucking step parents sign it? That's who signed it. So whatever. My name
There
may
you
just be
go.
on it.
There you go. Okay.
And to that, Jack, you're not in prison for loan defrauding a loan.
And yeah, there's no
nor
debtor's
is-
prison. That's what my grandma
No.
always told me.
Well, you
Thanks,
know
Grandma.
what? I mean, what I did is I have like so many thousands of dollars in private loans. I mean, this is not, we're getting off topic, but what I did is I consolidated those. I got the payment, made to a reasonable amount I could pay per month, and that's going to get paid off as long as I can make those payments in 3 years. Now, the federal loans, that's the mountain that I'm never going to climb.
Yeah, you can never get out of it. And
I'll
that's
never
the
get out
problem.
of that. I'll never get out of it. We all got a break with COVID where they basically said, okay, you don't have to make your payments right now, but the payments are going to come back. That's what they pretty much told everybody with student loans. So
And-
there was
and the bullshit about that.
that period is over. So now
Okay,
that's
in
going to
October.
be, And if I had to do time in a federal penitentiary for like 2 years to have all that fucking debt gone,
Sign me up.
I probably would.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
probably
and
would.
here's the bullshit of the whole COVID thing too. I think I probably brought up the reference before, but that of present value. So the money that you didn't have to pay during COVID time,
Mhm.
you actually have to pay more later
Yes.
because
Yes.
that $1 Coke is now a $1.25
Well,
Coke.
Right.
You don't have to
No,
pay more, but your
this
student
is a
loan interest
reality
is
of
zero.
finance. Present value is always going to have an effect. It's never going to get lower.
Well, that's the problem with
So-
that's the problem with the whole decision, the whole tax and spend decision. Mike talked about this with the dollar bill. When you start devaluing you're devaluing the dollar bill to the point where, okay, I still have to pay the student loans, but now all the money that I have to spend to live on rent, milk, eggs, electricity, that's all
things that you
going
buy
up.
now.
That's all
Yeah,
going
and
up.
if I'm never gonna be able to get out of that mountain, I'd rather live my life. That's
Yeah,
how I
no.
see it.
No,
And
I
I'm
think you
with you.
can get, isn't it kind of like a mortgage? Like the first few years of your mortgage, you're pretty much paying
no,
all
no,
interest,
no,
right?
Tom, it is
Is that what
not
it's
a
like?
normal loan. It is not normal.
No,
it is not a
Tom,
normal
it's
loan.
more like when we were kids, we paid 25
guaranteed
cents for
money.
a soda.
Well, how
And
did I pay mine
now-
off? How did we pay ours off then?
How much?
They're
Because
saying
how much do you have
it's
in
not
loans?
possible for them to pay it off.
Because again, the theory is present value. A Coke that I
Well,
bought in
Well, how did we pay ours off
big
then?
question. How much was your student loan
Think
payment,
about
Tom?
it.
How much was
Huh?
your student loan payment every month?
I don't remember. It was like
Or how much did you pay on them? It
$100,
doesn't matter.
75.
probably 17, 18 years ago. Don't ask me now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my student loan payment as it stands right now is $1,200 a month. $1,200.
That's like, yeah, but I think Tom's saying let the buyer beware. It depends where you go to school, what the tuition was.
Yeah, I
and
don't know how yours is like that amount. I mean,
well, Boston College is a very good school. So
I'm not.
for
She's
That
not.
was
We're not
Dez.
talking. No, we're not talking about me. She's talking about like why
I went to
Desiree's
I
is
went
so
to
much.
community college and I went to Wichita State, and I took out additional loans because I had to live. But that's, I mean, $1,200. That would be if like it was shortened a little bit. It wasn't that. But if I did like the income stuff, then it would be lower. But then I would never even reach my principal, so it doesn't matter. So if that's going to be the situation, well, I'm not going to spend. I don't think it's 1,200. I think it's maybe like
I had the similar approach because with student loan, you look at you don't. It's like considered good debt. There's good debt and bad debt. So I wasn't in a hurry to pay it off.
I'm not in
So it was always like
it's
the
fine.
last thing, but I just slowly worked through it, and it took me a number of years, but I got through it. So I don't know.
I
That's a
think there's
different
a
show.
lot
I
of
don't mind
guess,
paying
to
them.
try
I
to
just
help
have a
you guys
problem
pay
with
off
paying.
your loans.
Well, I
Meh.
mean, we should probably just mention the third decision that the court made had to do with a woman who was a website designer for events.
Yeah.
And what happened was based on her own morality, her values and her moral values and her religion, she didn't want to design a website for a gay wedding. And so that got all the way to court. Did she have the right? Is that a violation of equal protection? Is that basically saying the same as my restaurant doesn't serve black people? Like, in other words, is that what we're talking about? And the court ruled not under the 14th Amendment or on the right to association. They basically said it was a right to free speech, that you can't compel someone to produce something.
A writing, yeah.
A
It was
writing.
a website creation.
In other words, if somebody let's turn it around to the most extreme case. What if you had the Grand Wizard of the KKK marrying the whatever the fucking female or equivalent or the right hand man of that is, and they came to my little event planning thing with the robes and the whole fucking thing and said, we want you to design our event. Right. Now,
I think
the point is, so my moral conviction, right, Desiree, that's right.
The masks were a good idea.
That's a great movie.
Wait. What's
so the idea is,
But I
can
can't
the
say a fucking
government
thing.
The idea is, can the government make me do it under the Equal Protection Act, or do I have the right under the First Amendment to say I'm
I think
not
it's
doing that
different.
because I don't. And so the court said, no, you can't make this devout Christian woman whose religion dictates that, gay men shouldn't get married. You're not going to make her design the event or write the text or write the copy for something that
More importantly, why would you want to give them money if they are clearly not a supporter?
I agree
It
with you,
gets-
Zeus, but it's to make a political stand. It's to say we're
So-
being discriminated against.
I think the difference between that and like, blacks can't eat in here is like the website company, the invitation maker person, they are not their physical business is not open to the public. So it's not a restaurant. It's like you don't go to homegirl's house for, the websites. This is just a web, and so she's writing the stuff, and so that's why it's different, than if you were to go into an actual venue and the venue said you can't get married here because you're gay. Then that would be because that's a public business open to the public.
Here's the interesting thing. I'm offended by their moral stance. I'm offended by that, but I'm not necessarily against their rights.
You support their right to believe in their religion. I mean, like, in other words, if these people had gone to a Muslim wedding designer, his religion might dictate the very same thing that this Christian woman's did.
Which
like, are
isn't
we
that
going to
also
basically?
protected?
What's
Yeah,
that?
it could be.
Isn't religion also a protected class?
Yeah.
So this is my it all goes back to the bathroom. It all goes back to the bathroom.
Oh, is this the
If-
trans thing again?
Yes, if you were a woman and a trans woman comes into the bathroom, at what point do you say? At what point
This
does
is enough.
one person's rights end so the other ones can begin?
Right.
Where's that
That's
line?
Damn, that's really good.
Well,
Well,
and
you
that's-
hear
that's
about
this issue
blonde-
here.
The line's pretty simple to me. You shouldn't have men going into the ladies' room. I'm sorry. Like, if I'm a
Okay,
woman,
so then you shouldn't have, then if you're a devout Christian, you shouldn't be writing copy for gay couples.
know,
If
I
you're a gay
agree.
couple, don't make sure you don't go to that person. I mean,
Des, I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly
totally.
right.
I
I
also
think
heard
it's all
that she
about
made it
the
up.
watermarks, like the
the
watermarks
one thing
in the
that-
bathroom, like on the toilet. You see those rings. No, never mind.
The
Zeus
one
checks
thing
those
that
out.
stands out for me is the is it Leah Thompson? Is the
We're not
the
going on the
guy-
trans thing
No,
this week.
no. It's the girl that lost to him, and her thing.
Riley
the
Gr-
biggest
Riley
point of reference that she makes
Grimes.
is that she was standing in the locker room, and this person was in the locker room, everything dangling out, not even full transition. That's
Right.
a whole nother story. But the fact that not only does she lose to this person, but then this person is in the locker room exposing themselves with clearly different genital. It's really
Not only that,
Just
not
gives
only
me a-
that,
Talking
they
about
have
big
to,
dick in the locker room.
well, not only that, Zeus, not only do they have to see it, they have to get naked in front of it because they're changing, like they're showering. That's the it's worse than
Right.
just seeing the
It's
cock and
offensive.
balls.
it's offensive. It's just
taunting.
offensive.
Well,
It's taunting, no matter how it
it's
is.
it's
Yeah,
it's just-
yes, it's taunting. It's like, haha, and I got this.
Yeah, I think it's a little more. Women probably feel it's a little more dangerous than, oh, I'm gonna disrobe. I don't do this in front of anybody but my husband or my boyfriend, but now I'm doing it in front of this like dude in the locker room.
Anyway, back to the web design.
You go ahead.
Wasn't so Craig was saying that lady
Made it
again,
up.
I heard that she made it up.
Mhm.
But then some reporter called like one of the guys and was like, what the fuck you talking about? I'm married to a woman. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's the same city that in Colorado that somebody had I don't know exactly how it was, but it was like a court case with a cake maker and
Yeah,
a
the
cake
bakery.
couple.
Right.
The
Yes.
bakery.
That what came out in that? Do we know? Did they say that he had to make the cake, or does he not have to make the cake? for
Yeah,
them.
that's an older
I
case.
think
I
that would
forget.
be the same application as this.
Well, but it's a bakery, so the
They let them
bakery
eat
is
cake.
open
But you're
to the
still
public.
creating an object with artwork and writing on
Yeah.
the object.
Was he, or was he just literally making a cake, 3 tiers, white?
No.
Maybe it
It
had
was a
two
gay
dudes
cake.
on top.
It was something
How
where
do you make a
What?
gay cake? Is it 2 dudes
with
standing
two
on top?
men
Define
at the
gay
top of the
cake,
wedding
Tom.
cake or
Okay,
a
then you
pride
just say,
flag
I'm
on
gonna
the
make your
cake or
cake,
something
but you
like
gotta
that.
put that topper on. Like, I just don't know.
If it's against your religion, it's the same thing as the website.
Yeah,
I don't-
we're getting to a weird part of society where freedom of religion and every other freedom are just there's no and we were talking about it at the beginning, but there's no equity. It's like you can have freedom of religion, but only certain religions. You can have freedom of speech, but only certain speech. It's I don't know, man. Jack, you've said it before, but you think we're already done. I'm really beginning to believe it. And
Okay,
this
well,
He won that case.
yeah, no, Des, he won
really?
that case in the Supreme Court, but then what happened was there was another case where he denied a cake to a trans couple. And
Oh,
that
Jesus
case, he fought that case as well after the Supreme Court ruling. And
Okay.
in that case, the judge went against him and made him bake the cake for the trans couple.
We can't see.
This cake is literally, I don't know if this is the cake, but it's just a 3-tier white cake, and it just has 2 dudes on top instead of
Right.
like that's
That's
pushing
not
it. I
offensive
think
on any level.
you're not writing anything on there. You're baking the same cake as you would for a straight couple. You
Well,
don't put the topper on, then
It's got
fine.
the 2 men at the top.
Yeah, but you don't have to put that on. Most of the time, you don't. The wedding planner does.
Yeah,
So,
but I think after, like I said, after that ruling, the trans couple, they defeated him in court, and I guess that hasn't been appealed to the Supreme Court yet. It probably, and this guy, he must be a real litigator. Like he's willing to go to court. So who knows? But now I think this Supreme Court decision, I would think, would even, in other words, if the bakery case didn't go in this guy's favor, this would overrule that anyway. Because now they're saying you can't compel speech, you can't compel expression, right? That's what this ruling is. So in other words, this
I can see the difference though between the two.
no, I agree with you. If I own a restaurant that's open to the public and I serve food, I can't discriminate based on race or any other
Right.
and say you can't eat here. But I don't know that that's the same.
Which is essentially what a bakery is. I mean, it's a business that serves food products for consumption and purchased by others.
Yeah, but if there's somebody comes in and asks you to put it in the shape of a penis and testicles on the plate, you can say no.
Right.
I mean, you could say no.
Yeah.
But that can be offensive that can be offensive on levels that have nothing to do with sexuality.
Right.
You just simply do not want to make a penis-shaped cake.
Right.
I'm just saying, yeah, whatever.
The waitress just walked in and she's like, what the fuck are they talking about?
I mean, I don't know.
She said she'll get behind a penis-shaped cake.
I had for my bachelorette party, I had these penis-shaped cookies and they were really good.
Excellent.
But I think you guys have got it wrong. Why are you saying that this is an indicator that things are done? Because all 3 of these cases, I mean, the majority of people, of Americans, agree with what the Supreme Court came down on all 3 of these cases, and all 3 of them are going in what I would say is a positive direction.
Yeah, or
right.
backwards,
but there's
or
a
less
very
progressive.
There's a very loud minority then, Tom. If you're talking about
if they've been now exposed as a minority, they can be as loud as they want to be.
Don't use the terms expose and minority in the same sentence, please, Tom. Sorry.
Next.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Well, look, I know we have been on for a while. I know that Mike also wanted to touch on what Tom just kind of was leading to, which is how do Americans feel about these decisions and how do Americans feel about America right now as a country? So maybe that's where we're going to go next week with Mike. Can't make any promises. I can't.
If he shows up.
No,
I don't have the table.
I don't have the right to compel Mike's speech, so he may want to come on next week and talk about like cars. I don't know. But anyway,
He's
we've
been
been on.
talk about cars for like 2 years.
I know he has. But we've been on for a while, so I think it's time to wrap things up. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.